I must admit I didn't really expect to be doing this, an actual live video blog. Yes, this is me. I'm Ajaxpost. That's the idea I came up with a little while ago on the Sims 3 forums. In fact, it was probably Sims 2 when I first came up with it. And I've used my alter ego name Adam Slade as the name for the channel. It's not actually my real name. My real name is Adrian, but you will have known that because you've looked at the About page on the channel. But yeah, it's kind of complicated and weird, and I've tried to change it and it never really quite works. But hi, hello, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me for this little first and possibly last video blog. And for subscribing or watching my channel, any part of it. That is so great to have you along. Now, I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do in this series. I could talk about the games I'm playing, where they are, where they're going, and so on. But as you will have realised, I'm not a prolific video YouTuber. I don't produce games and videos every day, so there's probably not a lot to say really about that. But a couple of things happening. The Sims 3 series is ongoing. It's a terrible thing to say, but I wish Carl would go. I should be more, what's the word I'm looking for, thorough, ruthless in the gameplay, and actually say, right, this is the end of that generation, let's get on to the next. But I've not done that because I'm just letting the game evolve as it's doing, which is probably the wrong thing. But changes are afoot, most definitely, in the Sims 3 series. Sims 4, I'm kind of struggling a little bit with. I've only got the base game because I'm not quite sure there's enough of the gameplay that I like to play, even with all the expansion packs. That may change if they become cheaper. I buy a lot more. I'm very cheap. If you follow me, or if you're part of the conversations I'm part of on the Sims 3 4, you know that I'm frugal is a trait that I most certainly have. So the Sims 4 we'll carry on with playing that, but I'm not quite sure how much further that's going to develop. Again, any thoughts or ideas you have for what I can try, or excitement that I can add to the game, would be much appreciated. Transport Fever, I've loved those kind of games for years and years, from the very first SimCity, Civ, and Sid Meier's original Railroad Tycoon. Simple and basic, and as it was then, it just really got you into it. I mean, trains, who would have thought I'd have been a fan of trains? Probably not me, but that's what happened. So that I'll keep on playing just because it's just fun, and I just love that sort of construction game, and you can build from that. This War of Mine, that's coming to a close. There's only another half dozen or so episodes, I think, left in that. I know the game will end on day 40, so I think we're about game day 30 something now, aren't we? Now I have in fact just recently purchased in a humble bundle sale, humble store sale, it wasn't a part of a bundle as such, the Little Ones DLC for that game. And I don't know if that will actually impact on the gameplay that I'm playing through at the moment. I'm not sure if, well, I'll play it separately and see if it adds anything to the game as a new challenge and so on. So there may be another series of that, I'm not entirely sure. But once that ends, we'll see where I go from there. I might just keep it back to 3 games, which means I can produce them perhaps more frequently, each series more frequently, which might be better. Or I might try a new game. I recently purchased Project High Rise, which is a Sim Tower, the sort of the new generation of the old Sim Tower game, which is quite fun, but I'm not sure that the way I play, I can build enough of a story into that to sort of take it and make it interesting and fun for you to view. Again, if it's something you'd like me to have a go at, if you'd like to see what it's like, then by all means just let me know in the comments, and I'll see if I can put at least 1 or 2 videos up of that to sort of show you how it works and so on. Well, what I know of it. I'm never an expert at any of these games, but I just love playing them and learning and discovering new things. So that's where we'll take that perhaps. Other than that, there's a couple of other games I've bought recently-ish, which again don't really fit into the style of play that I'm comfortable with recording and uploading as videos. So there probably won't be any of those. 7 Days to Die, I've watched a couple of those from an old Sims 3 and YouTube friend, Frozen Orange Juice, Frozen OJ. I've watched some of her episodes of that, so that might be an interesting game. That's on sale as well at the moment. So we'll see if I, on the Humble store, see if I pick that up, and if I can, that'll be a different change of tack for me. Anyway, so that's the game. So I thought, well, yeah, that's all fun and good, but how much useful information, how much entertainment will you get from watching me saying those things? I'm not sure. What I thought I might do, actually, which is quite different to the Let's Plays and the other videos I'm putting up. You know, if you sort of look through the channel, that I've got one particular playlist called Theatrical something or other. I just love the theatre. And I'm very lucky to live in a place. I don't live in a big city. I don't live in London, but I live in a place with easy access to several very good theatres, both sort of the big production kind of shows which tour the country, and very much smaller, intimate studio theatres, which I particularly enjoy going to see. And also close to a couple of very good theatre schools. So particularly in the last year, I've actually been seeing a lot more of the student productions, which is quite fun. They're not always sort of the best quality, but they show real promise. You see young actors coming through, and you sort of follow their careers as they develop, which is something I really enjoy doing. But they also allow you to see quite dramatic works. So I thought I might talk about those as sort of the key focus of these video blogs. So what I'll do, I'll kick that off for this month. What I've seen so far in May, in fact, 2 of those young sort of student school productions and 1 big old-fashioned named play. The first one I saw was Death and Dancing, produced by the Bath University School, Theatrical School. I'm not quite sure what the title of it is, to be honest. I might put the correct name in the descriptions. That'd be the sensible thing for me to do, wouldn't it? So yeah, I went to see Death and Dancing. It was a 2-hander. It was around the themes of sexuality and understanding and coming to terms with life and the hardships that people in the LGBT community have to go through. 2 characters. One was a young American, a very, you might describe him, flighty, frivolous gay man who just hadn't really come to terms with coming out to the important people in his life, his parents particularly, but just loved going out on the scene and just having lots and lots of, not relationships at all, sex, let's say it, lots and lots of sex and meeting up with strangers on the gay scene. And the other character, a somewhat older and more rounded lesbian character. Now the interesting thing about this production was they were both played by men, and they were both called Max, the characters were. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there. I'm not quite sure if that was a key part of the concept, the conceit of the play, but yeah, so that was interesting. And it was really good. It was very dramatic. It was, the personal relationships between them was really quite impressive. The dynamic particularly was, again, around the sort of the flighty, not grounded younger gay male character, who was just off and never really came to terms with his life until the lesbian character took off and disappeared. They set up a house together, they were a flat share, but they never quite got their relationship sorted. She was for settling down and for creating a full relationship. It wasn't really a relationship, but something grounded for the 2 of them to do to move forward in their lives. And for him, she kind of adopted a kind of motherly approach for him to actually come to terms and settle down and find the one in his life, which he really proved to be quite incapable of doing. She left, and that created all sorts of trauma in his life. And there was a reconciliation at the end, but it was, when you came to it, it really was an emotional journey. The acting, they're only students, I think they're both in the last year. There's a little pitchy in places, particularly the young guy who played the young American gay male. That's probably more a character issue because he wasn't such an attractive character and all sorts of issues. You think just come on, man, come to terms with your life, which he never did. Whereas the other guy playing the lesbian character was much more solid and there was a lot more emotional depth to the character, which I just love having that in a play, which is why I particularly like smaller theatrical productions over the big shows, or even in film sometimes. If I'm going to even see a film, it's the smaller emotional connection I like to establish with a character. So that was a really good show. Cheap, nice, which is one of the great things when you go to a theatrical school production. It's not costly, but that really was a very impressive show, and the two actors, I think, I want to see where they're going after this. Very, very impressive. The next thing I saw was quite a different thing. It was called Fraccked. Don't mention the F word. Old school comedy legends within the UK TV and theatrical sphere, namely Anne Reid and James Bolam. It was, as you can imagine, a heavily political piece about fracking and its impact on a small rural community, and the interplay between the big oil company who wants to establish these vast fields of wells or fracking. What do they call them? I can't remember now, but whatever they were. Effectively oil wells, but not really. Just pumping this gas out of the earth on these fracking stations. And the PR company which was trying to spin the whole thing and make it a win-win for everyone. It was a fun piece with a lot of good fun lines in it. I'm not sure the ensemble cast was entirely in touch with their characters. Again, it might have been that because they were ciphers, really, they were just stereotypes of people in PR, big oil people or big energy people, perhaps more accurately. So he didn't really sort of say, well, yeah, these are real people. It was just saying a thing. It had its message to give, and it was entertaining, and the audience, it was a full house at the theatre, which is always good to see. But for me, it didn't quite work, again, because I missed that emotional resonance with it. And fun as it was, they would occasionally also drop in very on topic, very up to date moments. For example, a reference to that poor chap who was pulled off that United Airlines flight, involuntary disembarkation or whatever it was called. And also a mention of the Trump presidency and a couple of other references which are very much up to the moment, which I thought was kind of unnecessary. And although large numbers of the audience thought, oh, that's very witty, that's great fun, that's so pertinent, but I thought, well, yeah, but why? Unnecessary for me. So that was fun, but not the finest thing I've seen there. And finally, the third thing I saw, just the other day, was called I Am the Wind. And this was from the Bristol Old Vic School, which has produced many fine actors. Just look up the history of the Bristol Old Vic, and you'll see them. And this is productions performed, I think, by their graduated directors, showcasing the sort of final year or other leading lights in the school. In terms of the design and the actors. Again, it's another two-hander, two guys on a boat coming to terms with what we discover was a very traumatic event in the life of one of the guys, probably. But the interesting thing for me was it switched. Every now and then it would switch between the events of the story being told, which was the two guys on the boat, and what seemed like every now it would sort of switch tone into what could have been a hospital or an examination or a psychiatrist's room where someone was trying to come to terms with the event that happened on the boat. So that was it, and you kind of switched between one character who was called the one and the other character who was simply called the other. And at times I had to think, well, hang on, whose story are we actually telling here? Is it the one or is it the other? whose story actually is it. And I find that kind of thing where you have to start thinking, what story am I being told here, was really good. A lot of it was wordplay, repetition, and trying to get to the meaning of words. It was all about grey and heaviness and feeling like a rock on water. Have I mentioned the two guys were in a boat? I possibly did. Well, yeah, as you'll have known if you watch the Let's Plays, my memory is a little bit ropey, and I'll often immediately forget what I've just said or mentioned previously. But yeah, two guys on a boat, and you can kind of imagine what the trauma might be if you're set sail on the ocean on a boat. But yeah, so again, that was good because you were pulled into the emotional story of the two characters. And at the end of it, the final scenes, the whole, it's a very small, quite intimate theatre in Bristol. The whole audience was silent and tense, and you couldn't hear anything apart from the guy going through his final recollection of the story. And it was a very powerful piece. Two really solid, good performances from the two actors. So that was impressive. A great way to end, as it were, your time at the theatre school. So that's certainly well worth seeing. It was only put on for a couple of days. The student performances do tend to be just a couple of sort of a couple of days for their sort of presentation of their last days for graduation or whatever from the school. But if I get the chance, I do try and go and see them because, as I say, they can be very impressive pieces in their own right, but also a great way to see some of the latest, the newest upcoming talent from the local theatre schools. So yeah, that was it. I'm off to see another amateur play in Bath next week. So if I do this thing again, I might talk about that. It's from the same company that I saw last year, doing a thing about internet and sort of, what do they call it, revenge porn kind of thing, which was incredibly impressive. It was a great story, and if they were just a local community amateur theatrical team, but the performances were absolutely solid, and the story was gripping and pertinent. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this one coming up. It's an old story. I've seen a professional production of it a few years ago, so that'll be an interesting thing to see. But anyway, I think that will wrap this up. I feels like I've talked for a long time, and I hope you've enjoyed this. And hi, it's been good to meet you, and I hope you've enjoyed meeting me in the flesh, as it were. And I will continue watching the Let's Plays, which are obviously the main focus of this channel. And this may or may not be the first and last time you see me in the flesh doing one of these little video blogs. Let me know what you thought. If you'd like to know more about any of the productions I've seen, or any ideas about your views on theatre, it'd be great to hear from you. And of course, any ideas on moving forward with the main thrust of the channel, which is the Let's Plays. But anyway, from me, Adrian, hi, Ajaxpost. Until next time,